We're going to take a look at a real workout that I did with a young athlete who came over from the States who's represented Trinidad in the Carifta Games. We're going to take a look at what he needed to work on, what his strengths and weaknesses are, and the areas of technique that in particular I believed would make big corrections and take him to even longer jumps and faster sprint times. In doing so, I hope that you'll also be able to learn some of the drills, some of the techniques and methods that can be employed to improve your sprinting and jumping. First of all, it's important to analyse what the athlete needs. So I had a look at Andrew's jumping, and of course when he was here I analysed some of his movements, some of his technical inputs, and also listened to what he thought he needed to work on too, for both his jumping and his sprinting. The takeoff being key, for example, for his jumping. Additionally, Andrew wanted to work on his mid-air technique. Talking of the takeoff, we worked on this over a number of sessions, trying to get him to keep his free thigh in advance of his hip, and the mat drills that you'll have seen lots of times on the channel really helped him achieve an extended position. Having run 10.91 seconds at such a young age, Andrew obviously is very fast. However, we still identified a number of areas which he needs to work on to improve his sprint speed even further. Okay, let's take a look at what we did in the first session. Basic walking drills can tell you much about an athlete. So have a look at Andrew's foot placement and you'll see that on occasions he's leading into the ground with his toes rather than striking on the forefoot with the toes up. This will of course lose speed, power on his contacts. Indeed, this was something that he'd flagged up earlier. So I implemented these hands on hips low leg cycle drills where the emphasis was on pulling the toes up, therefore making a stronger foot contact. We repeated these drills quite a few times and really got him to focus on that foot position. Then we introduced the arms and on occasions he still fell out of position in terms of the foot contact, but it's a continual learning process. The more he does it and the more he's told what to do, the more there will be improvement, as you can see here. The focus needs to be on pulling those toes up towards the shin and then rotating the foot quickly into the contact. These skipping drills, not only being beneficial for long jump and triple jump, also help that foot plant for sprinting. These skipping drills also enabled us to work on the arm action and trying to keep the forearms away from the chest. Now this is something that was identified as happening during running and also the long jump takeoff. So by focusing on that arm placement throughout all the drills, hopefully we're going to get a change when it comes to running and jumping. Speaking of jumping, we then progressed to working the penultimate step and the takeoff movement, working just at walking pace, trying to get a flat foot between the mats for the penultimate, then progressing to jogging pace, trying to get a quick rhythm between the two mats, keeping that flat foot between the two and flat onto the takeoff as well. You can see that after not too much time, Andrew began to hold his free leg into the jump, which is something that he wasn't doing when he was training back home in the States. So repetition of these drills and then transferring them to the pit should enable him to develop that takeoff drive. That is a particularly good drive. We can see how far he actually went. We then went on to a couple of other penultimate step drills, takeoff drills, as shown here. The key here is the quick transition on the penultimate step, change, switch into the takeoff. We concluded this part of the session with some straight leg hops, just to balance out the work being done between both legs. Let's now take a look at some of the other things that I used to assess Andrew. So initially we noted that his arm action needed work on, so a simple drill, stand in place, move the arms backwards and forwards and keep the forearm away from the chest. You can see what he's doing here and that's what we need to correct. So that forearm needs to stay away from the shoulder and that arm be held out in front. So here he's beginning to work more on it. Keep the arm swing going, think about swinging the arms forwards, but again still the arms closing too much at the front. However, his hips are higher, which is something else we were working on as noted earlier. Working through it again, and the arms are now starting to move slightly differently. Admittedly, he's still in acceleration, but he's stepping high, pulling his legs through, and it's a slightly better position there, arms slightly more in front of him, but it still needs more work. Over the 2 weeks that Andrew was here in the UK, we worked on his sprint mechanics quite consistently with lots and lots of drills. However, returning to this session, we concluded with some plyometrics. So here we have some drop and block jumps where the emphasis is on the eccentric block, trying to be stiff on the contact. Now we're reacting, doing a drop jump, and I was instructing Andrew to get more height but do it quick. Also mixed it up with some depth jumps where the athlete can land flat-footed and power up more and load more. And that one though was a drop jump with a quicker contact. So it's always good to mix and match the types of plyometrics that you do, drop jumps that you do, to get different training effects. Whilst in the UK, Andrew did 9 to 10 training sessions, and we worked on his running mechanics as noted and also his jumping. Now, unfortunately, in the second week he sustained a slight injury, so it'll be interesting for you guys to see how we dealt with that and the type of work that we were still able to do. So look out for a future video covering that type of training. Interested in the extremely portable and accurate free-lap timing system, then do drop me a message. The system is accurate to 2/1000ths of a second and can time end times and split times. Also, do consider becoming a channel member. Every month I post an exclusive video which deep dives into the subject matter which is going to improve you as a long jumper, triple jumper or coach of those events.